All right, I guess we can get started with our forum. Hi, everyone, and welcome to our SheLeads forum, Women in Media, Ending the Cycle. While we wait for other people to come in, here are some important reminders. Please turn off your microphone, but you are welcome to turn on your camera. Just please note that we will be recording today's session. Feel free to type your questions in the chat box, and questions will be entertained at the live Q&A after the presentation. Some topics today may be a bit sensitive, so please feel free to leave at any time. So we're going to start off this event with a land acknowledgement to respectfully recognize the lands and peoples of the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation, where our university is situated. It is traditional territory of the Mississaugas, a branch of the Greater Anishinaabe Nation, including Algonquin, Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi. Many of us are settlers, migrants, or descendants of those forcefully brought to this land, and we are here because this land is colonized. We use the land acknowledgement to respectfully recognize and acknowledge this land is and will continue to be home to Indigenous peoples, and it is important to acknowledge, and it is important to move forward towards reconciliation together with kindness and respect. I encourage you all to take a moment after today's events to look up the history behind the lands you are situated on. Hi everyone, my name is Sarah, and along with me today is Eka. We are members of the Ambassador Program under SheLeads and Actus Ontario Tech. Our purpose is to empower women to speak up and be heard. That's why we decided to focus on how women are portrayed in media. We feel that the portrayal of women on television, in films, and in other kinds of media may be detrimental and unfair. We hope that by increasing awareness about this issue, we will encourage more positive and realistic portrayals of women in media. The big question we'll be answering today is, how are women wrongfully portrayed in the media, and what are the effects of this portrayal?
Before we begin, we would like to ask you a question. Have you ever been influenced by how people are portrayed in the media? You can use the Menti code displayed on the screen to join this conversation, or if you're comfortable, you can enter in the chat a way the media has influenced you.
Okay, so everyone has answered, and everyone has been influenced by how people are portrayed in media. It's pretty interesting. This just goes to show that the media has quite a lot of power over our perception of ourselves and just our daily lives. We're going to move on now with the presentation. So there are three main components to our presentation: harmful stereotypes, mental health issues, and our influence on the next generation. When we're talking about harmful stereotypes, we will debunk and discuss certain assumptions about women, such as women are weaker than men, or women can only be pretty if they are thin. From these stereotypes, certain mental health issues can arise. This includes depression, anxiety, body dysmorphia, and eating disorders. Finally, all these elements can be passed down to the next generation through the way we raise them and what environment we raise them in. This presentation will explain some of these topics through the form of a story, using everyday experiences of women to demonstrate these concepts. We will be explaining these concepts through a story. There are two characters, the protagonist characterized as shy and quiet, and a best friend, who is friendly and outgoing. Part 1. Childhood. Growing up in a condescending and misogynistic environment. What happens when a child is subject to a certain type of media? So we all know that most girls have seen many Disney princess movies growing up. This might seem completely harmless. However, there's a certain message being projected onto them as they watch these cartoons. Let's imagine that a little girl and her best friend love to watch Disney princess movies together. But after seeing the same hourglass body type over and over again, they develop a certain point of view. Skinny equals pretty. This message is very harmful to a young girl and sets a certain mindset for them. These two girls then decide to go as Disney princesses for Halloween. The girl's best friend goes as Cinderella, and the girl herself goes as Mulan. When people compliment the girls, Cinderella is called beautiful, but Mulan is called cultural or exotic. This kind of thinking and communication sends a certain message to the girls that they aren't the same, which means there's something wrong with being a woman of a certain identity or group. Overall, there are three main messages being projected onto these young girls: sexualization, fetishization, and exoticizing. Sexualization is when someone is being treated or seen only for their sexual qualities. Some examples can be seen in The Avengers, through how Black Widow is depicted and dressed. Fetishization means that a person is being seen as a sexual object according to a certain aspect of their identity. We can see this in the movie Aladdin, when Jasmine is sexualized when she is wearing a revealing outfit. Finally, exoticizing alienates a person and romanticizes or sexualizes them for that trait. An example of this is in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, where Cho Chang, which is also a very stereotypical name, goes to the Yule Ball dressed in a Chi Pao-inspired dress. This dress is one that has been hypersexualized and stereotypically associated with Chinese women. In conclusion, we can see that much of the media we let children watch has hidden messages and biases in it that can harm young children as they grow.
The next stage of our presentation is adolescence and how the misogynistic environment in childhood affects girls as they grow older. Before we begin, though, I would like to give a trigger warning as a section of the presentation does contain discussions of body dysmorphia, eating disorders, sexual harassment, and rape. The protagonist starts to feel self-conscious and uncomfortable with her body because she doesn't feel as pretty or skinny as the other girls. Society's beauty standards don't apply to her, which leads to body dysmorphia and internalized sexism and racism as she begins to dislike her appearance. Social media are constantly forcing images and videos of the perfect body or lifestyle on young girls. This, in addition to the ideals reinforced during childhood, leads adolescents and young adults to feel uncomfortable and constantly compare themselves to others. This can lead to mental health issues such as depression, anxiety, body and facial dysmorphia, and eating disorders, all of which are unfortunately quite common. The portrayal of women as weak or incapable also influences men and boys to act condescendingly and even violently towards women and girls. In many cases, women suffer from sexual harassment and rape stemming from these misogynistic ideas. This leads to girls feeling ashamed of their bodies or believing that they don't have control over their own bodies. Additionally, women of color are often badly portrayed in media, either being fetishized and exoticized or being overly stereotypical. Societal beauty standards are often Eurocentric, such as having light skin, hair and eyes, a small nose, big eyes, straight hair, and so on. These can make women of color feel inadequate because those standards don't apply to them due to their race. The two girls decide to go to a party. Their parents impose a curfew to ensure that they aren't in danger walking home. The girl wants to wear a certain outfit to the party, but her friend says it's too revealing. At the party, the girl is getting hit on by random men who justify it because of what she's wearing and tell her to stop exaggerating and being dramatic. Since early childhood, misogynistic ideas have been ingrained in women's minds. When they get older, these ideas are reinforced by factors such as social media, as well as the usual television and literature, which often promote competition between women. Body shaming, slut shaming, judging other women, and a common attitude of "I'm not like other girls," which causes many adolescents to compare themselves to each other and to feel as if they will never be good enough. This also leads to internalized misogyny by judging other girls and themselves against sexist beliefs propagated by the media they were exposed to as children. Many people unfortunately believe this to be the correct way of thinking. Men will often also Men will often also use excuses reinforced by the media to justify inappropriate behavior towards women. Because women are frequently portrayed as dramatic and weak, as well as overly sexualized, men may take advantage of women because they believe they are inferior. A common justification for sexual harassment is that the woman was wearing clothes that were too revealing. Perfectly, many people will say that she deserved the harassment because of what she was wearing. And afterwards, the woman's feelings of violation are often invalidated and written off as her being overly dramatic or exaggerating in order to seek attention. And because this cycle has been ongoing for a very long time, parents will often reinforce these ideas in their children by imposing more restrictions on their daughters than their sons, such as no dating until a certain age, don't go out for too long, and so on. This can be frustrating and could even be detrimental towards mental health, especially for adolescents, because they feel as if they have no freedom or control over their lives. The final part of our story is adulthood. This is where we have the choice to either continue the cycle or to step up and end it.
Some ways that people can unknowingly raise up their children to have these misogynistic ideas is by raising children in a certain way. For example, our protagonist tells their daughter that they shouldn't wear blue or play with cars because those are for boys. This tells the daughter that there's a certain mold that she has to fit into. Another example is when this parent assumes that a male friend of their daughter is a boyfriend or is interested in their daughter. This tells the daughter that men only have one objective when they approach her: to date. The daughter can become afraid or assume that if she has a lot of male friends, she only seeks attention. The claim that women exist only for the benefit of men is a long and withstanding ideology that has existed for a long time. This cycle is further shown in our protagonist's adulthood, when she pursues a career in media as a producer. Due to the toxic cycle that has biased her from her childhood, she creates a movie about a teen girl who hates her appearance and only cares about how her boyfriend perceives her. This harmful theme is all too prevalent in today's movies, TV shows, and series, further promoting the message of women existing only for the benefit of men. This now raises the question of how we can prevent the repeating of this cycle.
Education. Raising awareness about this issue requires education on the detrimental representation of women in the media. We may work towards a more fair society by teaching folks about the impact of negative stereotypes and the need for truthful depiction. Advocacy. Advocacy is critical in combating the negative portrayal of women in the media. Advocates can utilize their platforms and voices to point out bad stereotypes and push for more positive and truthful portrayals of women in the media. Supporting initiatives. By promoting positive depictions of women in the media, we may help change the industry towards more inclusive and empowering programming. We can encourage more accurate and respectful depictions of women by supporting these programs. Some examples of this include the Malala Fund, created by Malala Yousafzai to support secondary education for girls all around the globe. The National Network of Abortion Funds, which aims to provide funding to fair and equitable abortion access. And lastly, Dress for Success, an initiative that provides women with professional clothes to help with job preparation and financial independence. Providing women with tools and resources. It is critical to provide women with the tools and resources they need to produce and promote good media portrayal. We can work towards a future in which women are portrayed fairly and accurately by encouraging women to take control of their own narratives. The key takeaway is this. Women have been portrayed in the media in an inaccurate and demeaning manner for a very long time. However, we now have the power to change how the world sees us by supporting women's voices and opposing misogynistic ideals. Thank you all for attending. We hope you enjoyed our presentation. If you have any questions, please reach out to us through our email sheleadsot@gmail.com. We hope you enjoyed our presentation and now understand the harmful cycle that is perpetuated by a lack of positive representation of women in media.
If anyone has any questions, you can type them in the chat and we will do our best to answer them now.
Yes, Laura?
I just wanted to say that it was a really, really excellent presentation. You guys did a wonderful job. You covered everything in that topic that anyone could talk about, a lot of really important issues. You spoke very clearly. You thought of everything. It was really, really great.
Oh, thank you. Answering the question, there are several things that we can do to reduce the harmful portrayal of women in media. So this includes education to raise awareness about this issue and advocating for change in the industry, as well as supporting initiatives which are trying to support more inclusive, empowering programming for women.
Just adding on to Eka's response, we can also support this more feminist ideas in our day-to-day lives just by combating derogatory comments or informing more people about this issue and what they can do to help. To answer the next question in the chat, some experiences I have with the portrayal of women in media is when I was growing up, I saw lots of the same body type, just skinny girls, no diversity at all. And I think it impacted me negatively in how I saw myself and even how like other people treated me. Like I think it's a pretty common experience for extended family members when they come over, they comment about your weight, how you look like, and all that stuff. So yeah, I can definitely feel the effects of how women are portrayed in media in my day-to-day life. If anyone here feels comfortable, you can also share some of your experiences with how media has affected your life.
Just adding on to Sarah as well. As a person of color growing up, you don't see a lot of representation, and so it's harder to feel seen in the media when you don't see like characters and other people like you. If that's all the questions we have for today, thank you everyone for joining the presentation.